you from Pure Africa TV. A very good morning. Join us in the breakfast show. Remember, today is the 17th of course of March. The year is 2022, and as usual, this is a very busy month of the year. This is a very busy year, of course, especially bearing in mind that this is the time that our KCSE candidates are sitting for their national examinations. Of course, today is the fourth day of the fourth day. Today is the fourth day of that particular exercise. Of course, our KCSE candidates are sitting for their national exams, and so as for us, we will continue wishing them the very best. Wishing them the best of luck in the exams. Of course, despite the fact that exam malpractices are there over and over again, and that is so disappointing.
It is something that is disappointing as well. And the other thing about that is it has happened for over so many years, and we are hoping that this time ago we'll be able to crack down on it.
And of course, we see yesterday Cabinet Secretary for Education George Magoha now warns against those that are owning mobile phones, or those that are owning phones in school, not just in the examination room, but in school. After a case emerged whereby there was this student that was receiving screenshots of the examination papers, and that was very disappointing. Anyway, we will continue wishing them the very best. We believe that they will do their best. They will be able to recover all those that they had learned for the past 4 years, to write them down and to get to achieve their various goals. Of course, people have different goals for that particular exams.
And today is a sad day because the chairman for
men's conference,
Mr. Jackson Kibor, unfortunately died.
It's so unfortunate that we are mourning the death of Mzee Jackson Kibor, because that's the chairman for men's conference. We've seen him stand out and act promptly just for the benefit of the men's conference. And so there's a question as to who will be the next chairman for the men's conference. May God rest his soul in peace, even as we continue mourning the chairman for the men's conference. And so we can see a lot has unfolded overnight. May God rest his soul in peace. May his soul rest in eternal peace. And so join us in the breakfast show. Remember, my name is Evans Odhiambo.
My name is Maurice.
Remember, in the first bit of this particular show, as usual, it will be such an interactive bit. As usual, what you will need to do is just let us know where you are actually tuned in from, where you are able to watch from, where you can actually view from. Of course, this is a breakfast show coming to you both from Pure Africa TV and at the same time from Pure Africa Radio. During the first bit of this particular show, remember, all our social media platforms are already opened just for the benefit of you, of course, for you to drop your comments there in real time, your comments tailored in real time, and of course we will be shouting them out in the real time. Remember, our fan page in Facebook is
at Pure Africa TV, on Twitter it's at Pure Africa TV, on Instagram it's at Pure Africa TV.
And of course, you can use our WhatsApp number
0796840566.
Remember also to download our official application, of course, the Pure Africa TV official app. What you need to do is simple. Just get to your Google Play Store, Android smartphone. There you have it. I tell you, you are a winner. Just get to your Google Play Store, type there PA TV official app. You need not to stress yourself, with the several words. Just write PA TV official app, and there tell you our Pure Africa TV official app will be there as the first option. Having that particular app, you'll be able to get the latest trends coming to you, of course, from Pure Africa TV, and at the same time from Pure Africa Radio. And not just that, you'll be able to follow all the live shows and programs coming to you both from Pure Africa TV and Pure Africa Radio. Remember, also having that particular application, having that particular platform, you will be able to follow your favorite movies and series, of course, coming to you from Pure Africa TV. And so having that particular platform will make you be more than a winner. Remember, we are getting feedbacks from various individuals or various consumers of that particular platform saying that, wow, it's a wonderful platform, it's such an interactive platform. And so do not be left behind. Always get to download your Pure Africa TV official app and be at par with others. Remember, getting to the second bit of this particular show, as usual, we'll be delving deep. We'll be delving deep to the magazines, just to see magazines, newspapers, just to see what is coming up in the world of politics, in the world of entertainment, of course, in the world of business, as well in the world of sports. Remember also, we'll be getting to the county section to see those particular stories or those particular events that are unfolding on a daily basis, especially in our respective counties. This does not mean that we'll be looking at all the 47 counties. Remember, we'll be looking at some of the counties that will be featured in that particular newspaper. And most interestingly, we would see one particular county featuring the hottest story for the day, and that which makes the second bit of the breakfast show, of course, live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. And so moving to the next beat, of course, that will be the third beat of this particular show, and as usual, we will be tackling a given subject of study, of course, that which is of public interest, that which is of public significance, that particular subject that is perceived to be, affecting the whole community, affecting our entire society, that particular subject that is seen to be affecting the whole country. Remember, the subject to be discussed, or the subject for discussion today, when we cross to the third bit of the show, we are just yet to introduce you to that particular subject, so that you begin thinking about it, so that when we cross over there, you'll have enough points, of course, you'll have the ideas, you'll have the opinions, you'll have all that it requires to see you participate actively in that particular subject. Of course, that is the most participatory bit of this particular show. This is the breakfast show coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Evans Odiam.
And my name is Maurice Muta.
And the breakfast show begins. Remember to follow us in our social media platforms, of course, Facebook.
Facebook is at Pure Africa TV, on Twitter at Pure Africa TV, on Instagram, Pure Africa TV. And don't forget to WhatsApp us at 0796 840560.
And of course, we'll be getting your comments in real time and shouting them out in the real time, especially during the first beat of this particular show. As usual, this is the most interactive bit, and so we'll be interacting. Once you get to the social media platforms, drop your comment there just to let us know where you are already tuned in from, where you are watching from, where you are able to follow this morning show. Of course, this is the breakfast show from. Remember also, you can share to us through which particular platform are you able to follow this show from. I know there's quite a good number of people who are able to follow through their television screens, those that have the free-to-air satellite decoders. And of course, there's a good number of people following live from our social media platforms. Of course, Facebook Live. Remember, we are there already. Facebook Live. You can follow as well and drop your comments there. And so, there are those who are able to follow through the Pure Africa TV official app. Remember, when you are not following through the social media platforms, you can drop your comments and thoughts and viewpoints through our WhatsApp number. And the number is 0796 840560. And the good thing about the app is that even once you miss a show, you can be able to come back and view the show. You can be able to catch up on shows that you missed, and you can be able to have a catalog of all our entertainment, all our shows, and all our content. Remember, the app enables you to review. For example, you are committed somewhere, you were not able to tune in at that particular time, but having your Pure Africa TV official app will help you to review and see what transpired when you were not there. My name is Evans Odiam.
My name is Maurice
And
Muta.
join us, the breakfast show begins. very first show coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
My name is Maurice.
Remember, this is the first bit of this particular show where we do interact, of course. Just to let me know or let us know where you are really tuned in from, where you are watching from, where you are viewing from, and actually through which particular platform are you able to follow this particular show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. And of course, I see Kelly Samis already tuned in, our all-time fan, saying good morning, following. Thank you very much, Kelly Samis, for following and moving forward. Of course, I see Sir Philip already tuned in all the way from Kisaku Secondary School, saying he is wishing all the candidates for Kisaku Secondary School all the best in their examinations. Wow, thank you very much. Of course, Owino Victor, the Odi boy, already tuned in all the way from Narok County, and there Arun Lane already tuned in all the way from Masai Mara. Thank you very much. Moving forward, Melody, Madam Melody, already tuned in all the way from Mount Kenya University Thinker Campus. Thank you very much for choosing the breakfast show. Maybe on your comment section. On
my comment section, I see Mike Karanja tuned in all the way from Kirinyaga County. I see Mahira John tuned in from Nairobi County. I see Chris Nyabasi tuned in all the way from Migori. And on the other side, I see my friend here, Zach Chacha, tuned in also from Migori.
Thank you very much, Fredo Chola. I see you are tuned in all the way from Kiambu County, and there I see Lydia. Lydia is tuned in all the way from Mombasa County, and there is Jared Utieno all the way from Homa Bay County. Remember, your comments will be shouting them out in the real time, especially during the first bit of the show. So it's important. It's good that you let us know where you are tuned in from. Remember, this particular bit of the show is the most interactive bit of this particular show, and so your comments will be shouting them out in the real time, just to recognize you and where you are already tuned in from before we get to the second bit of this particular show. Remember, we just have a lot in store for this particular show, of course, especially the second bit, but always will continue to say, may the soul of Mzee Kibos rest in peace. He has been such a strong gentleman, defending the men's conference.
He had friends and enemies at in the same level, and in the case of him, he was a controversial person. He's known to have married 4 wives, divorced his second wife after a 50-year marriage, married another wife, and then after 1 year divorced her and then married another.
And of course, at sometimes he was engaged in constant conflicts with his sons over the land issues.
He leaves behind close to 20 children, and he's remembered as a businessman, a politician, a philanthropist, a good advisor for men. Also, that's why men decided to make him the chairman of the men's conference.
We decided to make him, of course, I'm one of the strong members of the men's conference, and so we decided. So we are just worried. We are worried.
Who will be the next
we don't know who is gonna take that particular position and lead it the best way. Just like Mzee Kibos did it, but may his soul rest in peace. Remember, Mzee Kibor has died of kidney failure, and of course, the age, of course, is around 88 years of age, and so we are very sorry to the family of Mzee, and may his soul rest in eternal peace. Remember, moving forward during the second bit of this particular show, again, we see now EBC reacts after the Moses Kuria's sentiments. We see Wefula Chebukati reacts after Moses Kuria's sentiments. Remember, the other day Moses Kuria talked about vote rigging, the alleged vote rigging, of course, for the year 2017.
So according to Kuria, he alleged that they assisted Uhuru to rig the elections in 2017, and I think he was insinuating that in the next election he would assist
Dr. William Ruto
in rigging of election in the central.
And so it has been very controversial. That has been a very contentious subject. It has been very debatable. Remember, people are looking forward to seeing Kuria Kuria, facing the same direction as Sabina Chege.
Yeah.
I remember Sabina Chege was there was some action, of course, legal actions were taken against Sabina Chege, but there we saw the court ordering for her release or for her leave, and so the case came to an end after the court orders.
I think this issue of politicians uttering very divisive things or very controversial statements should be handled in this way. They should be fined really large amounts of money to deter them from actually doing it, because in most cases they will be taken to court, they'll write their statements, and then after a few weeks or so the story disappears, and that is not proving effective in helping them tame their tongues.
And such matters are inflammatory. And remember, these particular terms, they also impact the Kenyan citizens.
Exactly.
See, the moment a leader stands and say that they help the colleague, to rig voting or votes, election rigging there or voting, then it comes to the mind of the citizen and knows that, wow, so even as we struggle with, trying to elect in the good leaders, the leaders we feel can help us and bring developmental projects, then there's a way of rigging, and so it's something that sticks to the mind of the citizens.
And again, it might cause a lot of conflict, because people will assume that elections are constantly rigged, and there are people, or there are a cabal of people in the background that control who will get particular seats and not the people themselves, and that is also an attack on democracy itself.
And remember, that is because of the same stories. That's why we saw a section of residents of course Mombasa, or a section of voters in Mombasa County teaming up, going to the IEBC registration center, saying that now it's high time that their name be listed out of that voter registration list, because they have been voting over and over again, but there's no change. The stories are the same. Corruption cases are still there, and among many other complaints that they went with before the IEBC office, of course, in Mombasa County nearly 1 month ago.
Another interesting story is Miguna endorses Dr. William Samoei Ruto for the presidency of Kenya. And it's interesting because Miguna lauded his speech and said that his speech was really nice, saying bravo Dr. William Ruto. And I think for Miguna, he has found a friend where he thought he had a foe, because initially the same government that Dr. William Samoei Ruto is in was
there's a time they were like a sheep and a dog. Miguna and Ruto were like a sheep and a dog, but now you can see, that's why we say in politics things change each and every day, each and every second, each and every minute. Today we can be very best friends, but tomorrow
we can become enemies.
We are enemies again. And of course, going by the tweets of Dr. Miguna, we see his support is towards towards Dr. William Ruto. Is laying his support or leaning his support to Dr. William Ruto at the expense of ODM boss Raila Odinga and of course the president Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
Don't you think that he's doing this because he was promised goodies, that the DP had promised that once he becomes president, Miguna will be allowed to come back to the country, and maybe this is his leverage, and he's deciding, if I support you, maybe if you become president, I'll be able to get back to Kenya and continue my own political career agenda. Yeah,
and remember the other day Miguna declaring that he would go for the Nairobi gubernatorial seat.
Yeah.
And so, but he's still away, and so there's a big question. But wait and see. But let's wait and see. And of course, just much will be able to unfold even before 2022 general election. It's now nearly 4 months ahead, or 5 months ahead. Of course, 9th of August is 2022 this year.
And we hope that you have registered as a voter if you are able. And
it's good that you get, of course, you've registered there. Once you've registered, what is good? Just to be there, relax. This is the time to embrace unity, the time to embrace brotherhood, even as you wait for that day, that particular day, the D-Day for the election. Remember, these are some of the stories that will be touching deeply when we get to the second bit of this particular show. Meanwhile, we are in the first bit of the show. Continue dropping your comments, continue tweeting there, continue commenting, just to let us see where you are already tuned in from. Thank you very much. Of course, this is Emilia Tian, already tuned in all the way from Nairobi City. I know the people of Nairobi City yesterday were very busy, because having the team Azimio, the same time having the team Kenya Kwanza. So Nairobi City was such a busy city yesterday, of course, Nairobi County. Thank you very much, Samson Henry. I see your comment already following the show live from hometown. I greet all the listeners and fans of the Pure Africa TV. I received the greetings from Samson Henry. Thank you very much, of course, for choosing the breakfast show. Maybe in your section.
In my section, I see Brian Abundo all the way from Nairobi County. I see Festus Uthiambo all the way from Kahama. I see Harriet Mwita all the way from Nandi County, and they're all saying I see you today. I'm tuned in. Keep up the good work.
And of course, Elijah Kasunga already tuned in all the way from Machakos County. DJ Spoiler there, I see you tuned in all the way from Kitui. And moving forward, I see David Osudi already tuned in, saying the breakfast show is late. Remember, getting to the second bit of this particular show, we'll be touching the politics, business, entertainment. Of course, we'll also be touching some of the top news stories that are given weight in the section of sports, or in the sports section. But during the second bit, remember, Raila also spoke yesterday in Chatham House, talking about the priorities really giving to unity and policy change, especially eyeing the general elections, of course, in Kenya.
He talked about public debt. He said that the public debt in Kenya is about to hit 100 billion US dollars, that's close to 10 trillion Kenya shillings. And he talked about issues on austerity measures, reducing government spending, reducing the current spending, in order to reduce the appetite for debt in the country. He also talked about issues of taking debts that have low interest rates and from well-established national or global multinational banks such as the IMF and the World Bank. And then one thing that he should have talked about is called the debt trap, that mostly is associated with the Chinese, and but he didn't touch on that. But he talked about the issue of the public debt, and he said that if he's president, he'll ensure that we get loans at lower rates, at lower interest rates, and well favorable payment.
Don't you think that the issue of debt, this debt burden, don't you think it is political? Because we see any leader before getting to government will really criticize the debt burden. But getting to that position, we would see getting to the diaspora countries and signing the loans and getting some loans again, of course. Meanwhile, the debt will be accruing, the debt will be accumulating day in, day out. Don't you think it is political? Why would every leader take advantage of the sitting government or the current regime? And of course, talking about the debt burden. But wait, when they get to that particular position,
they start
the same story.
Again, we saw Dr. Samuel William Ruto talking about debt, and he said something concerning that, the 4 years, the debt has gone up to 7 trillion, that's around 70 billion US dollars, and he talked about it, and now we are seeing again Raila talking about the same issue, because now both of them are trying not to be accountable. They are saying that this is Uhuru's problem.
I remember Dr. William Ruto was also in this same government of the debt. Of course, that debt regime, he was also there. And so, this is a question, and it seems to be, it seems to be contradictory, self-contradictory.
And the truth is, the government cannot run without debt. So there are always deficits in every budget and in every year. So debt has to be there, whether it be foreign or domestic debt. The only solution is to manage how this debt is taken and how it is repaid.
and actually strategize on how it can be paid, and also channel it into a worthwhile project that would see it growing, that would see the funds growing, and finally the debt to be paid. Meanwhile, the developmental projects will be there just for the benefit of the Kenyan citizens, just for the benefits of the voters who actually trust these leaders to those political positions.
You see, Uhuru had talked about a while back when he was trying to address corruption. He said, when he made the famous quote, "Munataka nifanye nini?" You remember that quote?
I remember.
Yeah, and at that point, he talked about how 2 billion shillings is lost in Kenya every day to corruption. And much of these 2 billion comes from what? From borrowing from the Chinese, from borrowing from the World Bank, borrowing from the IMF, and the management of the debt is the most important thing.
And of course, we see Raila Amolo Odinga saying that he knows where the public funds are looted, and it's now the time to go for those funds, of course, to implement or to make or to actualize some of his political agenda and plans, including the 6,000 offer to those needy families. And so it's true that corruption is there. True that corruption is there.
And that is
but now the big question is, who will face it and see it finally gotten rid of?
You see, one of the agendas of President Uhuru Kenyatta was to tackle corruption, and even in his own regime, he has been unable to do it because sometimes the rot starts from within.
I remember the other time we had the audit. Remember the other time the President Uhuru Kenyatta, of course, began the lifestyle audit
of politicians, of very senior government officials.
And that was one way of facing corruption. But with the time.
With time it was ended. I think the best way to approach this is to jail very high profile people, but that has never happened. The only person who has undergone a serious case was Waluke, who was fined close to, I think, 1 billion shillings for corruption scandals that he had. And there is also controversy concerning him on the fact that on whether or not he will be able to run for his seat, because he's also a sitting MP. And there was argument on this basis that he has not yet been convicted, and you are innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah. And remember, today in the third bit of this particular show, we'll be talking about the subject of corruption, the subject of corruption, and equal distribution of funds. Of course, it's also given weight when tackling the subject of corruption, and equal job employment when it comes to job market, when it comes to distribution of public funds, when it comes to even in education.
Access to education, access to schools, and that is under equal distribution of resources. And there was a case concerning corruption. There was this case of devolution, where we say that devolution will ease pressure from the national government and be able to take money to the counties and to different regions of Kenya which had been considered marginalized over the years. But now the problem has been we devolved not only the systems that come from the central government to the county governments, but we also devolved corruption to these counties. So if you look at counties such as, for instance, Migori, we've had cases with Kiambu, we've had cases in Nairobi, which of course even the governors that were sitting there to be impeached because of these issues of corruption. So it's something that we'll talk about, as you said, in the third session.
Remember, in the third bit of this particular show, that particular participatory bit of the show, we will be talking about the subject of corruption, of course, so you can begin thinking about it. Meanwhile, we're in the first bit of the show. Soon we are graduating to the second bit of this particular show. The first bit of the show is such an interactive bit, of course. Your comments, I'll be shouting them out in the real time, of course. Keep on following us in our social media platforms, of course. Facebook, our fan pages.
It's at Pure Africa TV. On Twitter, it's at Pure Africa TV. On Instagram, it's at Pure Africa TV. And don't forget to WhatsApp us at 0796840560. 0796840560 is our WhatsApp number. Remember, you can drop your comment there. You following from your television screen, you following from your Pure Africa TV official app, you can as well drop your comments via that particular number, of course.
your comments will receive it in time, and of course we'll shout it out in time, especially during this particular bit of the show. This is the first bit of the show. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
And my name is Maurice Mwita.
Of course, I see a good number of people tuning in and following live this particular show. Of course, I see Nora already tuned in all the way from Mombasa County, County 001. And of course, moving forward, I see Wepu, aka Owen Commander. Already tuned in all the way from Nax, Vegas. Thank you very much for choosing Pure Africa TV.
I see James Neo here saying that is an interesting topic. Can't wait for the third date.
Thank you very much, Brotas Nyansera, already tuned in all the way from Nairobi County, the capital city. Continue staying with us. Remember, this is the first bit of this particular show, but soon we will be getting to the second bit of this particular show. And just to let you know that we just got a lot in store for you. Remember, it is the same yesterday that we see also KCSE now hits the 4th day today. Because
interesting enough, there have been around 10 girls that have been referred to the Moi Teaching Referral Hospital, and they have given birth while doing the KCSE exam.
But that does not stop them from doing. They would be doing it.
And we talked about it, and
of course we've seen in the previous times. We've seen delivering during the exam period until they move further to proceed to succeed. Of course, they get some good grades. And so delivery during the examination does not mean that they will fail. And so you are a parent, or if you are any victim of such circumstances, be rest assured that if she was a good student, she will be good. She will remain good until the last time. Of course, she will pass with the flying colors.
Yeah. So we are going on a break right now. We will be back after a few minutes.
To continue staying with us in a short while, we will be back. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
My name is Maurice Mwita.
Right, welcome back. This is the Breakfast Show coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
And my name is Maurice Mwita.
Remember, we are in the first bit of this particular show, but soon we are getting to the second bit of the show. And of course, I see comments. That's Jennifer already tuned in all the way from Homa Bay County, saying that the show is late. Of course, thank you very much for choosing the Breakfast Show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. And of course, Vivian already tuned in all the way from Machakos County. And moving forward, Faith tuned in from Nakuru City, Nakuru City, Nax Vegas.
And I see here John Boraro tuned in all the way from Nyamira County. I see Daniel Sarara tuned in all the way from Kajiado County. I see Flora Nyaboke tuned in again from Nyamira County.
Alright, now join us even as we get to this other bit of this particular show. This is the Breakfast Show, of course, coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
My name is Maurice
And
Muja.
looking at, remember, getting to the second bit of this particular show, we'll be beginning with some of the stories that are given weight, of course. We call them the top news stories that are given, given priority, given weight for this particular show. And there later, we will be proceeding on to look at the various newspapers that we have today. Of course, remember, we have the Star newspaper. We'll be looking at it, looking at some of the stories, top featuring stories. Of course, we see the issue of IEBC now giving priority to manual and not electronic results. Of course, it's also captured there. But remember, we'll be getting deeply to that when we get to the newspaper section. Remember, also getting to the newspaper, we'll be looking at we will be looking at what is coming up in the world of politics, in the world of entertainment, business, and of course we'll be looking at some of the top news stories that are featured in the sports section. But remember, the details of our sports section you will be able to get in the afternoon session, of course, Pure Africa Focus by your host Ole James Chamasi. Meanwhile, continue staying with us. We are now getting to the second bit of this particular show. Join us in the second bit of this particular show. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
My name is Maurice Muja.
And moving forward to look at some of the stories that are treated as the top news stories, or those stories that are given weight. Here, I see IEBC now investigates curious remarks on 2017 alleged vote rigging.
In the case of IEBC investigating those comments, it's an issue of Korea doubted the credibility of the IEBC, and he put shade on the whole system and the whole independent body, and it was an insinuation that the IEBC cannot be able to conduct free and fair elections.
And so it would be expected that IEBC would actually rise to react to that particular sentiment, of course, by MP for Gatanga.
And you've commented about it and said that this is a very divisive statement to say, because it creates that issue of voter apathy, and it has created an issue whereby people feel like that their votes do not matter, and it might lead to a lot of conflict after the election. And there is also that issue whereby that
it also creates conflicts, especially as far as the Kenyan voters, of course, the citizens are also concerned. They look at it like they vote each and every time, but the voting system is not credible. And so we'll even see some of them not participating because the same story. And so this is a matter that we see now being treated seriously. Of course, we see the IEBC chairman yesterday, of course, Wafula Chebukati, talking about that entire matter, saying that they have conducted investigations and have termed that particular matter as very offensive, as very illegal to speak about it. And so he said that anyway, somebody has a right to express himself, but he'll get time to explain the whole story and to see whether this story is true or false, especially concerning the IEBC, because to some points it reveals the weakness of IEBC. The story itself.
And as I've suggested before, in the case of politicians uttering such words, the best thing to do is to fine them heavily, with very large amounts of fines, because as you've noticed, the judicial system, or they say the wheels of justice, are slow in tackling such matters. And we've seen Linturi talking about Madoadoa. We've seen Sabina Chege also commenting about rigging of elections in the
Of course, action was taken against Sabina Chege until that particular time that the court ordered for her, her leave.
And then you see, now for her, she commented about it, but she was went and wrote a statement. Then after a few weeks, the whole story just disappeared like that. Now what we want to see is if they cannot be jailed, at least find them so that they can be able to tame their tongues.
And of course, now we see High Court is being waited to give judgment on this particular case of Moses Kuria.
Yeah. Another interesting story is that the ODM party has decided to give direct nomination to its members. But again, they talked about it and say that there are some posts or some seats that they'll give direct nominations on the basis that where a candidate seems to be ahead in terms of the polls, they'll just give him a direct nomination instead of going through the whole process of primaries. But what criteria will they use to determine on
the question of fair and free nomination has always been spoken about, has always been reiterated, and this particular subject of fair and free elections, see even some of the candidates now are currently leaving their political parties, jumping over to the next political party. Of course, it's the jumping season because there the chance will not be there. But now they're giving direct tickets. Do you see it becoming, the free and fair means of doing it?
In terms of democracy should be a system whereby people elect whoever they want, and giving direct tickets on the basis that the polls are showing that this particular candidate is likely to win in this particular region is not right. What they should do, they should go to the primaries, let their members decide who they want to give that particular ticket. Then there is the issue of consensus.
Or could it be, a matter of time, saying that instead of wasting a lot of time to go through the legal procedure, to go through the protocols observed, of course it's evident that this particular candidate is likely to win. Now let's give him direct. But of course there's a good number of people who will not be satisfied with that particular decision. They will be like, who or what particular protocol or what aspect shows them that is likely to win. And so deciding on the direct tickets is that particular decision that is likely to see several questions emerge, especially from other contestants of that particular seat. They'll begin, that's when you begin hearing the sentiments of unfair favoritism, others leaving.
They're saying there was bribery involved in this.
Bribery.
There is nepotism. In the case of ODM, there has been issues on that concerning Raila, and there was a case with his sister vying for a particular seat in the Nyanza region. There was a case of Oburu losing his seat and finally being given a seat at the EAC Parliament. But you see, issues such as that will always crop up when it comes to parties. And you notice in the ODM party, if you are running to be a governor using the ODM ticket, you'll be paying 500,000 Kenya shillings. If you are running for senator or a member of parliament, you'll have to pay 125,000 Kenya shillings. If you are running for a woman representative, you'll be able to pay, you'll be needed to pay 125,000 Kenya shillings. And if you are running for MCA or using the ODM ticket, you'll pay 50 to 25,000, depending on whether you are a youth or a person with disabilities.
Of course, those are some of the charges that are considered. The other day we saw Orina failing to go for the presidency, of course, under the ticket of UDA just because of lacking such funds.
And they used to lock out people from the nomination process to filter people that they deem serious or whether they want to run on that party. But now the question is, these direct nominations will at least give leeway and give opportunities to people who maybe would have lost those nominations and give them ample time to decide on whether they want to run as independent candidates or go to other parties.
Of course, free and fair nomination.
Don't you think that is an advantage to people who their IBC
because of course, because it's still early. At the moment, for example, the moment you are in that political party, then you hear that some are likely to be given free direct tickets to those particular positions. And of course, if you will not be given, you'll feel it. You'll just feel it that I doubt whether it's myself. And so you can make up your mind in the real time and look for another option. Of course, right now it's still the jumping, but there later it will be such a strict moment where there will be no jumping from one political party to the next, of course, following the guidelines that were given by the registrar of political parties. Of course, Beyond Ritu. Thank you very much. I see Zomolo Muita already tuned in, following. And moving to the next story now, we see Raila responds to the puppet allegations. In USA, of course, in the BBC interview, of course, in the Chatham House.
There has been constant, globally there has been constant conspiracies, that there is always a cabal of people that are ruling the government. It's usually conspiracies. And they say that leaders are just placed there, and there are people in the background that control everything that is happening in the country. Like in the case, there are allegations that Raila would become a puppet to Uhuru, that Uhuru will be running and these are allegations that have been
especially this an allegation that has been seen emanating from this other opposing side, of course, the Kenya Kwanza coalition.
But I think it's just throwing mud at
But Raila was able to respond to that in the Chatham House, said that is not a project for the government, is not a project for President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Those are just some politics. He termed them political. And
if he was a project as per se, as it's just maybe throwing mud at each other, just political hula baloo that happens constantly. In the case of Raila, you see he has tried to become president close to what? This is the fifth
time he's going for this particular position.
So if he was a project, I think we would have seen it even before. I think it's the sheer ambition of trying to
remember this is the very first time Raila is getting support from the Mount Kenya and of course Mount Kenya, especially Jubilee Party, now deciding that they are not having any presidential candidate. Now we see them teaming their support for the ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga. And so remember also in the past times, or in the past general election times, Raila has always been going for that particular position with or without without the support of the Mount or a section of the Mount Kenya voters. Of course, partly has been getting support from the section, but this time it seems that there is majority. Of course, we see the Jubilee Party boss being in support for his. Of course, we see also Raila talking about the handshake, saying, counting by number some of the benefits of handshake. Of course, this question that was thrown to him yesterday in the Jathan's house, he said that handshake led to unity of the country, and so developmental projects were also realized. But this is very opposed to what DP William Ruto said outside there. And so we see them contradicting each other. Whatever DP said once outside there, and what ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga is saying right there, they seem to be very contradictory statements.
In the case of
especially concerning the BBI, remember DP said that BBI led to the death of opposition, and there corruption came in. But according to Raila, says BBI led to unity, and after the unity, now developmental projects came in.
Now you see, there is an issue of checks and balances, and the government should run in this way. There should be checks and balances. That opposition should be there and the government should be there. But once the handshake came in, what happened was there was the scandals that we are hearing before. The scandals of this. There was this scandal of the Ministry of Health. I don't know, issues on corruption and all that. That went silent for a while, because now there was, as DP was saying, there was no opposition in the country.
But according to Raila, he says that opposition never died, and of course he was still at that. He was still the leader of opposition, but what they did was simple, just negotiations, agreement to see, or to reduce death cases that were rising from the lack of unity, especially because of that division within the country. And so he said that they agreed to shake hands just for the benefit of the country, to see peace come in, to see unity come in, to see other developmental projects come in. And of course, he said that a lot was achieved after the handshake.
Yes,
those 4 years that DP William Ruto terms as 4 years of hell to Raila Amolo Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, or of course the President Uhuru Kenyatta, they are 4 years of development. to DP, there are 4 years
of
else. And of course, moving to the next subject, or moving to the next story, that is given weight. We see Kenya Kwanza campaigns in Nairobi. Of course, they were in Ngara. There we saw them proceeding to Kirinyaga Road. Of course, we see the subject of emphasis was enhancing small-scale businesses. Remember the bottom-up approach of DP, all-time bottom-up approach that is meant to enhance those that are, taking small businesses to see them rise to higher levels. And of course, this was a subject that he was speaking about yesterday. And
the bottom-up approach on the economy, and that the DP's politics have been characterized by the issue of classism, and it's something a bit more divergent from what we are used to as a country, in the sense that the country was used to ethnicity politics, whereby you are coming from this region, it is us versus them. But then the DP came with a classism approach, whereby it is people that the haves and the have not, and the have not. So at this point, him going to the border riders, to the Mama Mboga, he said his approach would be to build the economy from bottom down, from bottom up
to trickle down.
There are two systems.
Yeah, of course, bottom up and the trickle down.
Trickle-down
so he's
system.
using this particular approach of bottom up and not the trickle down.
Yeah. So now the DPE approach is okay, but then there are also disadvantages of using that approach, but it's something that we'll be able to discuss maybe in the business section. But his campaign has been basically around that, and that is why he has been able to enjoy political backing across the whole country, because across the whole country there is that aspect of the class divide. But again, it is something to see, and it is a new philosophy and a new concept in our politics as a country.
Of course, we see him saying or promising to channel 50 billion Kenya shillings for small business enterprises, just to see them rise up. Of course, he also promised to safeguard border riders. Of course, as a majority voters, remember this comprises of the youths, and of course Kenya's population, the majority population of the Kenya country is the youth. Of course, these are the majority voters, and so he promised to safeguard their interests. Of course, criticizing the issue, although they already stopped crackdown on the operation of the border riders. Interestingly, you said that this was being done while he was out, while he was away, and coming back, it had to stop.
Speaking of the DP, pressure is mounting on him to resign over comments that he made during his coronation, or when he was being picked by the UDA party to be their flag bearer for the presidential seat. He had talked about the government and issues about the government borrowing, I don't know, trillions of shillings, or running down the economy. And there was criticism on him by some of leaders from the central region that are affiliated to the
Azimio la Umoja, and of course,
and they told him that you cannot criticize a system in which you are part of. And they also said that he used close to 107 million to go to the US, and actually all of this was funded by the same government.
Remember, the same statement was also we saw also Raila Amolo Odinga yesterday restating that particular statement, saying that DP was even given the state security when he was traveling to UK or US for his 12-day tour.
And if he's so critical about the government, as per the statements that were made, that he was told that he should resign because whatever he's against the same system that he's part of. So it's basically biting the hand that feeds you.
And so we just see a lot of pressure coming from the Azimio la Umoja, those that are allied to Azimio la Umoja, mounting a lot of pressure on DP, to resign, because of course all those allegations, they term them as injurious to the country, they term them being ill of the whole country and all the same government in which it is. But there again is a question, of course, looking at the sentiments of DP, you realize that not all of them are false. Of course, there are some facts looking at the DP's statement. Of course, talking about the issue of the opposition, of course, it's true. Or you can actually, going by some of the political analysts, of course, there are those who say that the opposition died. That the opposition died. Of course, we saw there was no opposition.
There is no opposition.
There was no opposition yet, and so I think some of the section of these particular leaders that are allied to Azimio la Umoja, some of them could be politicizing the whole issue. Meanwhile, some of them, anyway, it's political session, it's political session, electioneering period, and so we just expect much to happen.
They jump to it as politics.
It's politics.
Yeah. So the next story would be maybe the IBC wants results to be manually transmitted, as we've seen in the two previous elections. They had used electronic system that was in support by Safaricom, PLC, and then what happened was in between there were issues with the network breakdowns in regions that did not have good network systems and did not have 3G internet. Mostly regions in the northwestern part of Kenya, that is basically the Turkana regions, Marsabit, and other marginalized regions. What happened was real-time transmission of results was not possible, and therefore they started to use manual transmission methods whereby the returning officers had to fly or drive all the way back to the tallying center, which was at the time Bomas of Kenya. So now the issue with manual transmission of results is
that there's been that big question between the manual and electronic voter transmission, which would be very fair, that which would see accurate results. It has been very debatable.
The electronic system is subjected to being hacked, and we can remember there was the issue of Musando, who was and a mysterious death occurred to him, and his fingers were chopped off. And there was an issue with the case of the ODM party taking Jubilee party taking the IBC to court concerning issues of the servers, so that they could open their servers to see how the results were transmitted. But now,
and of course, somebody could be looking at the time aspect. Which one would save time between you see the electronic and the manual system?
The electronic system is quite much more efficient when it comes to time.
It will go faster.
But again, it is subjected to being hacked and manipulated.
And so when we look at accuracy, we would go for the manual system. But now, looking at the time factor, the electronic would chip in.
In the case of the manual system, it is also subjected to tampering with, because the returning officers can be able to agree with whoever is at the station and change the figures of that. But again, it's something interesting to see. My suggestion on the issue would be to use both systems and to help one counter the other in case something goes wrong.
And of course, you will realize the variation. It will not be the same. For example, using the electronic, the same time using the manual, you'll realize there's a big range. Now the question is, which one will you go for? For example, two of them being used, we see the manual on the other side, we see the electronic system being used. Then by the end of the day, you realize there's a big range.
But you see, IBC is not saying that it will scrap off one over the other. All it's saying is that which of the two will be given priority.
And of course, we see them prioritizing on the manual. And of course, according to the majority of, or rather according to the research, manual has been ever perceived to be the most accurate. And so, remember also politicians vary to different political parties, vary to those are allied to different coalitions. We've seen them talking about the free and fair elections. Of course, the other day we saw ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga saying that this year's election will be free and fair. And on the other side, we see DP William Ruto saying it will be free and fair, and his urge is just that his opposition, just to his competitors, his political competitors, to accept the vote just as it will be, and provided it will be fair. And of course, they believe it will be very fair. Of course, it will be very free and fair.
And another story is that the DP again was criticizing the handshake boys, as he called them. The handshake boys, that's basically was referring to Raila and Uhuru Kenyatta, and saying that they have never slept hungry in their life, and they have not experienced poverty for what it is. Again, we see him reiterating his whole political philosophy, which is the philosophy of classism, that is against people that have money and people that don't.
Especially that is expected of DP, especially remember the term hustler.
Hustler nation.
The term hustler, of course, that has been the subject when you know, lobbying for his campaign rallies, and so it's very expected that he would be talking in favor of those of the lower class, those strugglers down there. Of course, these are just politics, we see. But now let's wait and see which particular should any of the side clinch to the top seat. Should any of the side get to the top seat, of course, the presidency. Let's see now. There's some of these particular ideas are being you know, actualized, being put to reality. And of course, right now it's the decision of the Kenyan voter to decide the fate. Of course, remember yesterday talking about the factors to consider, or to narrow down to one particular leader to trust with your votes. And so it's a very critical moment for the Kenyan citizen. It's a very critical moment for the Kenyan voter to decide the fate of these leaders, not just for the presidency, but even to other political positions. Of course, we have those guys eyeing gubernatorial positions, those going for the members of parliament, those going for MCS, women representatives, and the rest, of course, senators. But it is upon the Kenyan citizen, it's upon the Kenyan voter now to decide the fate of it. Moving forward to the next story, of course, we see Raila speaks in Chatham House. Of course, this actually we've spoken about. We see him disclaims the DP's sentiment that Kenya had no position during that particular time, or during the second time, or the second regime for President Uhuru Kenyatta, saying that it was just a form of a negotiation and everything was okay.
So we are seeing another story here developing, whereby senators are telling the Nairobi governor, Honorable Anne Kananu, that she should take full control of the county, because we remember that the incumbent governor, who was Mike Mbuvi Sonko, was ousted by his own assembly, that is the county assembly for Nairobi, of allegations of corruptions amounting to around 375 million shillings, which was unaccounted for. So when Sonko was, even within the time before the impeachment of Mike Mbuvi Sonko, the national government had wanted to take full control of Nairobi County, because it's part of where the whole central government system is located. Now, what happened was NMS was given full control over the county with a former Army General called Badi, and he took over systems and things that the county government was doing. So it was a situation whereby Nairobi County had a governor, but the governor was not controlling his county. He was not in control of revenue collection. He was not in control of water. He was not in control in waste management and all that. So senators have come out and told Anne Kananu now to take over control over the county, because she deputized Mike Mbuvi Sonko, and once Sonko was impeached, she became the governor. So there is that issue on the NMS, because there were allegations that State House wanted to take full control over Nairobi from Mike Sonko, and they were able to do it because Sonko apparently had signed an agreement with NMS to let NMS control the county. But then, of
course, Kananu is now in the full charge. And so she is expected to be, responsible for all the sectors and subsectors for those, because they are under her mandate.
And considering that it's one of the county that has one of the highest revenue collection, there is a lot of strife concerning on who will control the county in itself.
Right, moving on to the next story, of course, we see KCSE. Today it's the fourth day. Of course, Magoha warns those with the mobile phones, those possessing these mobile phones. Remember, this is something that has been never noticed over and over. The issue of mobile phones seen as, you know, one of the factors leading to exam malpractices, exam cheating. And so we see now Education Cabinet Secretary now stands out to warn, especially those that are having mobile phones, to desist from having them, especially in the examination centers and also in schools.
So on to some international news. The fighting in Ukraine and Russia is still going on. And what happened yesterday, that was a theater that had a musical theater that had over close to 1,000 people and civilians was bombed, and it is presumed that 1,000 or so people have died in that. There is also the situation whereby the President of the United States has called Putin, that is the President of Russia, a war criminal. The conflict over there is a bit of a contentious issue, and it's still going on as the world watches as Russia invades Ukraine.
Remember, this has also impacted negatively, especially on the economy, not just for the Ukraine, Russia, but even it has even extended to our economy. Now we can see the prices of fuel, you know, rising, leading to prices of other products or other items as well rising. And so it was also warned there was a warning by the International Monetary Fund that this particular war would likely to impact negatively on the economy. But we see now it is impacting negatively. And so today is the 21st day since
the invasion started.
And so it's still worsening. We saw the other day the attack on the Kyiv region.
So there has been a lot of sanctions and counter sanctions between the two major superpower, Western powers, and the Eastern powers, that is Russia. And we've seen BBC being suspended in Russia, and other media outlets that belong to Russia, such as RT, being suspended also in Europe and in the United States. We've seen the owner of Chelsea, Ibrahimovic, being brought under a lot of sanction, and secret documents being leaked on allegations of corruptions and so forth and so forth. So it's something to watch by and see what happens and see what develops, when the conflict will end, or whether they'll come to a consensus.
Of course, you see a lot of nations, majority of the nations, you know, giving favor to the Ukrainians, because they seem to be the weakened point now. Of course, we see just a lot of countries sympathizing with them there, of course, in terms of support. But there it continues. Of course, we'll see how it will come to end. Though it's a very devastating, it's that which you know, it's not very economical friendly. It's very unfriendly as far as economy is concerned, not just for the two countries affected, but for the entire globe. Remember, these are just some of the top news stories that are here, especially during this particular bit. But remember, aside from these top stories, remember, these are some of the stories that were given weight, but soon we'll be proceeding on to look at some other stories, especially being captured in the newspapers. And just to remind you, remember, today we have the Star newspaper in the studio. We have the Star newspaper, and looking at the headline, we see the issue of voter. We see the issue of manual and electronic voter registration, voter system being mentioned there. Remember, we'll be getting to that particular section just to dig deep into one after the other of these particular stories, digging deep into one story after the other. My name is Evans Odiambo.
My name is Maurice Muda.
Remember, in the second bit, continue staying with us, continue following us. Remember, all our social media platforms are opened there just to see you dropping your comments. Of course, our fan page in Facebook.
It's at Pure Africa TV. On Twitter, it's at Pure Africa TV. On Instagram, Pure Africa TV. And don't forget to WhatsApp us at 0796 8405.
And of course, our YouTube is Pure Africa TV. You get there, subscribe to that particular channel. I tell you, subscribe. You get much of this particular contents coming to you both from Pure Africa TV, and at the same time from Pure Africa Radio. Remember also to get to download our official application, of course. That's the Pure Africa TV official app. Get to your Google Play Store, type their PATV app, and there you'll be good to go having our Pure Africa TV official app. And having that particular app, remember, will make you be at a position of getting all the latest trends coming to you from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. Meanwhile, continue following us. We're gonna take a short break, but coming there after, we'll be getting to the newspapers. Of course, we have the Star newspaper. This breakfast show coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. Of course, we are in the second bit of this particular show. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
My name is Morris Mwita.
Continue staying with us. In a short while, we'll be back with much more. Right, welcome back. This is the Breakfast Show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
My name is Morris Mwita.
Remember, still we're in the second bit of this particular show where you expect much, especially concerning the world of politics, entertainment, business. Of course, you expect to get some of the top news stories as well in the world of sports. And so continue staying with us. Remember, you can as well follow us in our social media platforms. Of course, our fan page in Facebook is Pure Africa TV, Instagram
Pure Africa TV, on Twitter it's Pure Africa TV, and don't forget to WhatsApp us at 0796-84056.
Remember, you can as well follow us through our YouTube channel, and once you get to that particular channel, do not forget to subscribe. Do not forget to subscribe. I tell you, subscribe to that particular channel. You get much more of this particular information coming to you from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. Not just the breakfast show. Remember, having subscribed to that particular channel, you'll be able to get all the updates from all other live shows and programs, of course, from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Evans Odhiambo, and so alongside me is Morris Mwita. This Morris Mwita, of course. This is the complete team for this particular show. This is the Breakfast Show live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. Remember, we are now getting to the newspaper, and of course we have the Star newspaper. Ready to Die, the controversial life of Jackson Kibor, also captured in this particular newspaper. Of course, given at the front page you see Mzee Kibor. Remember, Kibor has been the chairman for
the men's
conference until today, when he was actually declared dead.
And Mzee Kibor was a businessman, a politician, and a very controversial man who was hated and loved in both in both measures, because there are people that love the way he lived, there are people that love what he stood for, and there are people that were against how he would conduct himself. But he had been involved in fights with his children. He, as you said before, he had married close to 5 wives. The first, he had divorced his second wife after 50 years of marriage, married another one for a year, then divorced and then married another one. But Mzee Kibor will be remembered for his audacity and the fact that he stood up even to Moi and decided to join even ODM. He was a man of character.
So Mzee Kibor just decided to be he became the chairman for the men's conference after marrying and divorcing. Yeah. Not that he had not married.
The men's conference is not really per se an organization, rather it was something that was brought up for men, in order for men to encourage and to build each other.
To be mature, to be a gentleman.
To build each other on
both in character, social life,
because,
and many others.
Because men felt that they were being left aside, and the issues concerning men were being left aside. And you notice that the highest suicide rates in the world, the highest cases of depression are usually associated with men.
Even if it comes to gender-based violence, you realize that a lot of emphasis is given to the girl child and not the boy child.
So he was not elected per se, but people decided that he would be the chairman of the men's conference, and he'll be a man to be remembered because of the legacy that he left behind.
Of course, that's a story that is captured in the front page of this particular newspaper. Of course, this the Star. Remember, we'll be getting back to this particular story and to look at it into details. Meanwhile, we would say, may Mzee's soul rest in peace.
And condolences to the family, and may God give them strength in this time of grief.
Alright, moving forward, we see regions where Ruto is ahead of Raila. Remember, this another big question. There are those particular regions that analysts or political analysts would see Ruto being having a lot of votes there. Meanwhile, Raila will be having some little vote from that particular region. But moving to another region, you realize Raila has got a lot of votes in that particular region as opposed to DP, and so it's a competition of region, especially that those particular regions will consider Raila having several votes, especially the Nyanza region, Western, a bit of Western. But when we come to Mount Kenya region, it is debatable.
Again, the Rift Valley is a stronghold for the DP.
Yes.
When you go to the northern eastern region, again debatable. The eastern region is debatable. Coast is pro Azimio. Western region now, that is the swing vote, whereby we are having a split of the votes between the two regions. And predominantly, the western region has been voting for Raila for so many years, but right now I am seeing a change in the wave. And
of course, remember over the past years, Mudavadi has ever been with Raila. Of course, Wetangula has been with Raila, but now we see ANC, Amani National Congress Party leader Musalia Mudavadi getting to Kenya Kwanza. Of course, this particular coalition headed by DP William Ruto. We see also for the Kenya leader Moses Wetangula getting to Kenya Kwanza, and so you must expect a difference, especially as far as Raila's political ambition is concerned in the western region. But meanwhile, he still has votes from that particular region, so it's also debatable.
It's also debatable.
It's likely to be shared between the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio la Umoja. You saw yesterday some of the percentage that were being lined there as far as the polls are concerned. I think these particular regions are being concerned, or these are the factors to consider to come up with such percentages. Yesterday we saw, because we saw DP William Ruto given some percentage, Raila Amolo Odinga also had some percentages, but we saw that percentage for Raila being slightly higher than that of Ruto. But remember, politics would change today. This analysts would conduct it and give that percentage, but tomorrow it will be another different story. tomorrow
it will be
a different
the
story.
changes in the
Yes,
votes.
because we see parties, we just see political parties still, some of the political parties getting to Kenya Kwanza, of course, some of them getting to Azimio, not just political parties, supporters are moving from one political party to another. And so it's the jumpy season, and that jumping is likely to see different, very big change. A very big change as far as the figures are concerned, as far as the percentages and statistics are concerned, especially for this particular analyst who would analyze and give the weight of this particular voice, especially concerning various regions. Moving forward, we see MP Jaguar board in Ruto's rally in Starehe. Now we see Jaguar is also there. Remember this, some of the youths in politics, of course, Jaguar, the likes of Babu Owino.
And with Jaguar, it's a bit peculiar that he was booed in the region, in a Starehe constituency, because you remember Jaguar was elected in Starehe constituency, and he claimed that the election had been rigged. He was vying against Maina Kamanda. Maina Kamanda now is a strong supporter of the Azimio.
He's a strong supporter of Azimio, of course, yeah.
So at that point, Jaguar is famous for going up in front of camera, crying and saying that, you know, they have rigged this election and whatnot. Maina Kamanda decided that he'll step down and let Jaguar become the MP. But there has been a lot of issues with Jaguar on issues on development. In the Starehe region is actually part of the CBD of Nairobi, and there is a lot of the businessmen there. There are people that live around the Starehe constituency, and him being booed is an indication that maybe it's a foreshadow that maybe he will not be able to retain his seat.
And
but
so,
it's something to wait and see. That is just speculation on my part, but we will see.
of course, this sees several reactions emerge, especially from his supporters.
Because the atmosphere, the crowd of people, once a politician stands up to talk, really tells a lot about what the voters are feeling on the ground and what they will do when the elections, when they go to vote. For instance, that was a rally that was held by the DP, right? And the DP being there, the assumption would have been if Jaguar is being supported, the crowd would have cheered for him. But rather, booing him was an indication that maybe they have come to terms and have become tired of him as their MP. But that is my speculation on my part, and it's something that will wait.
Of course, it's something that time will get to tell. In politics, you know, a lot would change on a daily basis. You see, Raila Uhuru best placed to be my advisor after polls. Of course, now we saw Raila speaking yesterday, saying that President Uhuru Kenyatta is best likely to be his advisor even after the polls. And this is not, this is not very unique. This could be expected. Remember the other day, of course, these particular leaders that are allied to Azimio la Umoja, remember their truly sentiments, saying that President Uhuru Kenyatta is still too young to retire. He's too young to go home.
And then that brings about the next option that they've talked about Raila being a puppet of the deep state or Uhuru behind his back. Now, when sentiments of that of such appear, maybe they will be used against Raila and say that, you see, even he has said that once he becomes president, the advisor will be Uhuru, then they will continue their tyranny that they have been doing for the last 4 years. So again, it's something interesting to see. And again,
of
Uhuru
course, those that are aligned to Kenya Kwanza could pick this particular statement and build strength on it.
But again, it just shows to show that the handshake was a legitimate handshake, and that the two had decided to work together, not only after the election, but rather even if Raila becomes the president, then Uhuru will be there to advise him on how to run the government. So
not just that. Remember the other day in the Azimio la Umoja National Delegates Convention, President Uhuru Kenyatta saying that Raila's government would be such an inclusive government, and not just for Uhuru Kenyatta himself. It will be such an inclusive, according to them. But we see the two leaders very close. They are very close, you know, deliberating, making up minds together, and so that's why the question of the puppet are still coming on.
And you see, people had assumed and had said that within within a few
weeks
years,
or days,
years the handshake will just crumble down, and maybe Uhuru will get to near the election and disown Raila, then support Ruto. But then that didn't work out, and we've seen Uhuru support Raila in all ways, ensuring that the government
and up to now
no change.
And up to now no change can happen.
Yes, up to now
because
no change.
He has done almost everything
yeah.
To show his support for the ODM boss. The ODM leader Raila Odinga said the President Uhuru Kenyatta will be his advisor if he forms the next administration. Of course, as President Kenyatta prepares to exit the office in 3 months' time, Raila said he will be seeking advice from him regularly on day-to-day running operations of the government. And could be Raila is saying that President Uhuru Kenyatta has managed the government well, according to him, maybe his perception. So he would like to borrow a leaf from him, especially as they are outgoing, bearing in mind or allied to the fact that he has actually been in that particular government, knows all the corners, and so could help him move forward. But what about Ruto? What about, could DP Ruto cling to this position? No, DP on the other hand, it could be a bit different, because he has been the DP. Of course, he knows the trends, the tricks, whatever it's there, and so he would not be buying on the president's ideas.
But interesting enough, all these three individuals have been close to power for decades and decades.
Around the power, of course.
They understand the inner workings of the government, depending on the fact that Raila has been there since 2000.
Prime Minister,
he has become the Prime Minister and has worked together closely with Kibaki. And the DP has also not been so far away from power ever since 1992 with Youth for KANU, while being with Jirongo. He has been with him in 2002. He supported Kibaki, and then after that he supported Raila in 2007, then decided to debunk, and then supported Uhuru in 2013 and 2017. So for all of them, close to 2 decades, that is close to 20 years or so, they have been within close proximity to the power and running of this country. So it's not really an issue of getting advice from Uhuru Kenyatta. It's more or less working together and getting a handover, because an easy transitional process, because I am sure if whoever gets that presidential ticket, and I'm not ticket, rather presidential,
whoever shall cling to that particular power,
they will change the current system or the inner workings of the government to suit their own needs and to suit their own agendas.
And of course, moving forward, we see now IEBC wants manual results given priority over the electronic results.
The issue about that would have been the issue of network coverage. Network coverage was the issue in the last election, and there was discrepancies, as you say.
Of course, some failures resulting from the electronic system,
whereby the results brought in by the manual system and the electronic system were not the same. So with time, they saw that let's give priority to the manual system, because the electronic system may cause delays and such means. So
electronic would be much accurate, despite the fact that when it comes to time, it may be a bit slow, but accurate.
Yeah.
And so Kenyans will be looking forward to accurate results, and that's why they vote, trusting their various leaders in whatever capacities with their vote, just to see it becoming accurate, and of course giving them the best. Of course, the leaders that that they voted for.
Form 39B. There was a time they used to call it that.
The 39B.
39B.
And of course, moving forward, we see Miguna endorses Ruto for presidency. Another contentious story, another interesting story. And of course, of late, the tweets, Miguna's tweets have been seen to be favoring Ruto, because he has been perceived to be on favor of Ruto at the expense of favoring Raila and Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Remember the hashtag for Miguna always in the Twitter, stop Raila Odinga. Such a hashtag that has seen him, being, teaming up support for Dr. William Ruto. Of course, Lawyer Miguna has endorsed Deputy President William Ruto for the presidency. You see him speaking in one of the national television stations. He claimed on Azimio member. He claimed an Azimio member who happened to be his friend from their days in the university approached him to join ODM leader Raila Odinga's camp. Of course, remember there's a time that Raila Amolo Odinga and Miguna were very close friends.
Miguna decided to write a book called Peeling Back the Mask, where he criticized Raila, called him a spineless, and a lot of abuses in that book concerning Raila, because he talked about the 2007 election in the book, and talked about how
the chaotic election.
The chaotic election. I think he's a bitter man because he was deported from the country, and Raila did not.
And because for the sake of ODM boss Raila Amolo Odinga,
we see their friendship rekindled when Raila was being sworn in as the people's president, and Miguna
giving him the oath. It's Miguna who gave ODM leader the oath.
I'd say he rubbed the government in a wrong way and became enemy number one and had to be taken back to Canada. But speaking in human rights terms, Miguna is a Kenyan because he was born in Kenya, and he has Kenyan citizenship, and for them to claim on a technicality that his citizenship was revoked because he did not apply to become a dual citizen is a bit malicious on the government side. But I think he was perceived as a threat, and therefore was not allowed to come back to the country. And his shoot to kill approach, whereby when he says something, it's usually direct and straight to the point. Whereby if you can look back at a clip that they were doing the gubernatorial debate between him, Peter Kenneth, and Mike Sonko. He's been known to call out other politicians in public and embarrass them, and he's not afraid to say what he thinks.
He would speak what comes to his mind.
Yeah. So,
and of course, Miguna has been seen to be very steady in his words. Being very steady. Remember the other day he talked, he showed his interest in the Nairobi gubernatorial seat. But still there's a question as to whether he'll actually make it, because he still is outside the country. He's still outside the country. And moving forward, we see politician gets tongue lashing for joke about bigwig. And moving on, we see take full control of Nairobi. Senators now tell Kananu.
Talked about that.
This is a subject that was also captured in our top news stories there. Of course, regions where Raila is ahead of Ruto, maybe we can look at it deeply to see some of these particular regions where Raila is actually being perceived to be ahead of Ruto. Regions, sorry, we'll get back to that particular story in a short while and look at it deeply. To look at some of these particular regions. Of course, Nyanza region must be there. Nyanza region must be there. These particular regions that Raila is ahead of Ruto. Of course, the Kisii counties and the rest. But remember, this time as opposed to before, there's a time that in one given country, an opposer or a competitor would be seen to be having majority of votes, nearly all of them. But this time around, you try to analyze it, or going by the analysis, you'll realize that it's like shared. It's like shared, if not 50-50, you realize it's 40-60. Yeah, 40-60. It's not like the other day or the other previous years. That it would be 70-30 or 20-80, and so it's a tough competition. It's a very stiff competition, especially. And
that is the whole point of democracy, that we can all be able to agree to disagree, but at the end of it all, we can be able to pick a leader who we all want and who the majority wants. So the majority wins.
So it's the majority. It's the majority despite of the race, the ethnicity. Yeah, that's why you'll realize that even in Nyanza, you'll realize even in Rift Valley, at some regions you'll realize that Raila will get some votes. Yes. And so moving forward, remember we are now switching gears, moving forward to the next section. This of course is the business section. We are in the second bit of this particular show. Of course, the breakfast show coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
My name is Morris Mita.
Remember, these are some of the stories that are captured in various sections and various subsections. Remember, we began with the top news stories. There, of course, we saw what transpired in the top news stories. Then we looked at some of the stories that were captured in this particular newspaper. Of course, the political section. Now getting to the business section. Of course, the top story that is captured there is the pain for Kenyan fashion designers as Mutumba business. Yes, the pain for the Kenya fashion designers as Mutumba business. Of course, Kenya's local fashion industry is dynamic enterprise as it constantly evolves in different aspects.
In the case of Mitumba, it's also a contentious issue because the Mitumba industry has provided employment for so many people, especially in Gikomba, and it's an employer of so many people.
Of course, producing the cheap and affordable,
affordable clothes. They're actually imported in bales. They come from the Western countries, that is the United States, United Kingdom, and Europe. And once they come here, they're just sorted out and then sold for cheaper prices, and it's a good source of cheap form of clothes. But now, there is the textile industry in Kenya, and it has been destroyed by the Mitumba industry, and there is a very
facing it with a tough competition.
And the issue is that the Kenyan textile industry produces high quality goods, but then the problem is the price of these high quality goods is usually very high. And there were times that the government decided that it would ban the Mitumba industry, it would ban all imports of the Mitumbas, but then when it got to implementing it, there were so many factors and so many people that were involved in the whole industry that it became impractical to do that. So something to wait and see, what policy. Initially, they tried to create a balance between the local textile industry
and the Mitumba.
Yes, and it is a very tough thing to do and a tough thing to approach in that aspect. But we'll wait and see what happens. And
of course, we see the report indicates that the Kenyan fashion industry needs analysis report, or this particular analysis report 2022. Commissioned by the British Council in Kenya, however, notes that could be opportunity to increase market share by creating awareness of products made in Kenya.
Let's say buy Kenya,
buy Kenya, build Kenya. And of course, that's also a story that is captured in this particular section. Remember, this the business section. These are just some of the stories that are given. That are given weight. The pain for Kenyan fashion Mitumba design is also captured there. Of course, it has faced a very stiff competition from other from other textile industry. Of course, we see why Africa must work towards self-reliance. This is a story that is captured there. Of course, the story of Russia, Ukraine is also considered there, because with the onset of the war, you realize that there were things that were depended upon that particular country or those particular region. But now it's a time that Africa now begins to think why it's good to work to get to adapt, to rely on itself, rather than depending fully on these other regions. Especially crisis can emerge and other calamities can emerge. But does this mean that once calamities and such crises emerge, life will not continue? Of course, life will get to continue.
In the case of self-reliance, the issue with Africa is that we do not have well-developed industries to be able to cater for our own needs in terms of goods and services and products. Much of it comes from China, and also we cannot blame Africa on its own alone, because much of the world depends on China, because China is considered the factory of the world. But then there are some things that I believe that Africa can be able to produce on its own without the need for importation, like basically issues to do with inputs, fertilizers and all that. We also have our own natural resources, with Angola and Nigeria having very large reserves of oil, and the dependency on the global system sometimes like now has proved that it is not a bit as effective as you thought it to be. So there is need for us to be self-reliant, as you've said, the development of manufacturing industries and such, so that we can become not so dependent on other global parties or entities. Because when things go wrong there, they affect us directly.
Of course, these are some of the top news stories, so especially captured in this particular section. This is the business section. You are listening to Pure Africa Radio and at the same time watching live the Breakfast Show, of course, coming to you from Pure Africa TV. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
And my name is Maurice Muta.
Continue staying with us. In a short while, we are taking a very short break, but coming thereafter, remember, we will come back to tackle the county section and, of course, look at some of the topics or stories that are featured in the sports section. Continue staying with us. Meanwhile, follow us in our social media platforms, of course, Facebook.
It's at Pure Africa TV. On Twitter, it's at Pure Africa TV. On Instagram, it's at Pure Africa TV. Don't forget to WhatsApp us at 0796840556.
And of course, remember to follow us live. Follow us in our YouTube. Of course, our YouTube channel is Pure Africa TV. Once you get there, get to subscribe to get much more. Remember also get to download our official application. Remember to download our official application. Of course, the Pure Africa TV official app, and all will be delivered to you in the real time. You'll be able to follow these live shows and programs, of course, from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
And I'm Maurice Muta.
We're gonna take a short break, but coming later or coming thereafter, we'll be beginning to look at the county section, just to some of the stories that are given weight in this particular section, and to see which particular county will take the day for today's breakfast show, second bit of this particular show. Continue staying with us. In a short while, we'll be back with much more. Right, welcome back. This is the Breakfast Show coming to you from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. My name is Evans Odhiambo.
And my name is Maurice Muta.
I remember we had the second bit of this particular show, such an interesting bit where you'll expect much about politics, entertainment, business, of course, as well as some of the top news stories that are featured in the section of sports. Remember, we are still moving on, looking at various sections and various subsections of this particular newspaper. Of course, we are in the counties section just to see what is unfolding in our various counties. Of course, we see on the top side or on the front side of this particular section, the story featuring, yes, joining Azimio wasn't my own decision. I consulted Kalonzo. Of course, Kalonzo says now that joining Azimio was not his sole decision. It came after consultation and mutual agreement that it was now a time to join Azimio La Umoja and call it Azimio Oka, but later we saw that condemned.
I'm going to quote a Bible verse, and that's the book of Proverbs that says, a wise man changes his mind, a fool never. Yeah, so basically in the case of Kalonzo, he had to consult and he had to find himself in order to decide on who to support. Because again, you have to be practical and you have to be rational. Even when vying for a political seat, there is no need for me to vie for a political seat that I know I don't have the capability, the resources, or the numbers to win. I just want to vote in order just to, they are called to spoil votes. And so Kalonzo decided that who between the two horses, as we call them,
remember there's just a given section of Wiper Party followers that had entrusted Kalonzo Musyoka to go for the topmost post. And so Kalonzo joining Azimio could be a disappointment to them because they had entrusted him with that particular party. Of course, some of the core principles, we saw not all the core principles availed themselves for that particular day, the D-Day, when Raila Odinga was being nominated to be the presidential candidate.
So there were some that were left.
Was Martha Karua there?
Martha Karua has not yet made a decision.
And so still there's a question as to whether the Wiper Party leader really made the consultation. But we see him saying that he really made a consultation, especially as far as the stance for Martha Karua is concerned.
In the case of
we see Martha Karua is very reluctant, especially with the Azimio deal.
She's called the Iron Woman. The
Iron Lady is very reluctant.
She makes her own decision and stands by them. But in the case of Kalonzo, he can be swayed and he changes his own decision. But then it's a good thing for him because he decided, let me join a party that maybe or a person that I feel that I'm comfortable with. At that point was we talked about that this is a two-horse race, so he had to pick between the two horses, or whether he wanted to be the next third horse.
Because joining that could give him a chance next time to even climb higher, or rather to that position.
There is that shocking video of the robbery in Kisumu.
Robbery in Kisumu, of course, we see police probe still shop robbery. One suspect now arrested. Because the case of robbery, theft, and attacks is all over. The other day we were talking about the Baringo region, but I saw reactions from several audiences saying that no, Evans is not just in Baringo, it's even noticed in some other counties. And so we can't say some other counties are safe, not just Baringo, this bandit attacks. Now see, it's in Kisumu.
There was also a case in Bungoma. Was it Bungoma?
Yeah, Bungoma, the attack on the supermarket, or it was a bank. The bank, actually.
They stole 25 million Kenya shillings, and they have not been apprehended yet. And maybe that can be attributed to the tough economical times, where people have decided that now they will use all means in order to make ends meet. But again, it can be the issue of the security forces need to.
Of course, it's a call. It's a call for the security agencies not to pull up their socks, because there's a complaint that it's over and over there again. Remember, especially in the Baringo area or in the Baringo region, of course, the other day, especially when KCPE was being was starting, the day KCPE kicked off, we saw some of the students never reported in time, because of the fear of insecurity attacks, And so it's something that the Ministry for Interior must embark on it seriously, to look at it just for the benefit of the Kenyan citizen, just for the benefit of the voters, of course, who they look forward to safeguarding. And moving forward, we see Elders Hospital to be upgraded to level 4 status. Of course, that would be addition, that would be a plus, because the hospital will get a new maternity wing, female and male ward blocked in of course budget I see 40 million upgrade.
You see, we talked about hospitals and we talked about the way they were devolved, and I believe that that amount should be paid for by the county government. But at least we are seeing some changes. The ministry, the usual partnership between county governments and the Ministry of Health, and it's a leap forward, especially Elders, because Elders is in Wajir County.
Right. Yeah.
It's in Wajir County, and there have been issues of marginalization for so long in those northeastern regions. But we are seeing the fruits of devolution panning out in regions that initially had been marginalized. They did not have the level 4 hospitals. They did not have IC units and so forth. So the governor, again, maybe this can be a campaign gimmick.
Of course, we see the Jubilee government being applauded for this.
You see, yeah. So it can be an election gimmick. Basically, the Wajir governor trying to get re-elected back into office.
Of course, of course, the track record now being looked at. But meanwhile, there are those politicians who would be setting this particular agenda, especially when during the election nearing period. And of course, we've seen some of them even begin them, but never to complete them in time.
Funny enough is that
they seem to be looking like campaign projects. That's when you hear, I've already begun this, now next time I get there I'll complete it.
There's usually this trend whereby politicians start projects right about when they are elected and then just leave them until right about when the election period comes back again. Maybe it's road, then they start building them a year before. It's something that has been happening around the country, and what we want to see is a consistent developmental projects that are going on throughout the tenure of any politician. So we want consistency, that if you're building roads, let us see you build the roads all those 5 years that you're in office. If you're doing projects to do with education, let us see this project of education happening all those 5 years that you're in office. Now, the point is,
and in fact, I think that's one factor that voters, Kenyan citizens should look into.
The track record,
not just track record, but consistency in the project. Not that looking at that graph, it should be consistent, rising. Not that rising at a time during the campaigns, then after campaigns it's also going down. It should consistently rise, and those are some of the leaders that Kenyans can trust with the various political positions.
They hand out these goodies, or they roll out these projects just right about when the election is coming. Like if you look back maybe 1 or 2 years, maybe in 2020 and 2021, there have been so many projects that had stalled but have been completed just before the election time, so that it can be leverage and leeway to tell the people that, you see, I have built the roads, I have built the schools. But you see, if you do, the idea is usually that if you do it right about when you are elected,
it will stand. People will get to forget.
Yeah. So you
just now get to be constant. Just be constant. Do it right from the beginning. Proceed. But again, if you do it at the beginning, then you get lost, nowhere to be seen again. People must forget about you. People are very sensitive to what they see at that current time. That's why we're saying, out of the sight, out of mind.
Out of mind, out of sight.
Out of sight, mind, out of sight. So they would be very, very moved by what they see at the current time, and that's why you've seen Kenyan citizen, majority of the Kenyan citizen, and now yesterday you realize the majority of the people were talking about kitu kidogo. Now that is it, what they are able to see at that time. Remember that kitu kidogo, if that kitu kidogo would be a big project like some water project, some school, some hospital project, it would be good. And so moving forward, we see some of the next stories that are given coverage in the county section. We see elect leaders who can fight corruption, said Otichilo. Remember, Governor Wilbur Otichilo is the governor for Vihiga. For Otichilo, of course, we see Governor Otichilo saying elect leaders who can actually fight corruption. Yeah, that's a very strong, statement. Elect leaders who can fight corruption. Of course, the majority of the leaders have been talking about the fight against corruption, but do they fight it? That's now the question.
Corruption has been a word that has been thrown around by politicians over and over for generations now, and it has become part and parcel with the Kenyan populace and the Kenyan people, on the basis that there is a statement that says that our leaders and our politicians are a representation or mirror what society is. So if we elect in corrupt politician, it means that we ourselves as a people are immoral and have decided that to become corruption is a way of life. It got to a point whereby Kenyans got to say that you can be, as long as you are rich, will not question how you got your wealth. That is, even the young people, you find that most of the young people have now gotten involved in so many illegal things just in order to attain some certain type of lifestyle and to be able to gain wealth. Because our politicians have shown us it is allowed and there is nowhere they can take you, as long as you don't hurt anybody, as long as you don't use.
Remember, Governor Wilbur Otichilo is allied to Azimio la Umoja, and so this is why I was speaking in Vihiga, in what was seen to be teaming up support for the ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga. Of course, he says that Azimio la Umoja will really fight corruption. Should Raila clinch up to that position, they'll see we'll see corruption being fought to the latter. Of course, the issue of corruption, we see it being used, especially in political rallies now, to team up support.
But you see, we as a people have become used to it. We have become used to bribes. It's part and parcel of the whole security organ system.
It is what even the Kenyan citizens.
It is what is oiling the system that is the security system in Kenya. Toa kitu kidogo became something that of a norm, and we are used to it. So I think it goes back to the people and the individuals and society back, because now it all has to start with the individuals. Like if you want to change, you have to start with the people and to change this concept of the society.
In fact, you begin with yourself.
Begin with yourself, yeah. Are you willing to give out a bribe in order to get things done faster? Will you not? And corruption is not limited only to money, because corruption will also be encompass things like following the laws and following the systems that have been set in place.
And even to church level, we see in church leadership. Of course, there are claims of getting to church leadership position.
Yeah.
We've seen some claiming that some of their church leaders claim to those positions because they were corruptly elected or nominated to those positions. And so we see corruption getting to most of the aspects, most of the just several aspects, not just political arena. And so remember, today we'll be talking about the subject of corruption when we get to the third bit of this particular show. This is the Breakfast Show, coming to you live from Pure Africa TV, Pure Africa Radio. And moving forward, remember we are in the county section just to see some of the news or some of the stories that are given coverage in this particular section. We see KNH Othaya waives over 25 million medical bills to residents.
The National Hospital. It's a good gesture, but then it is poking holes into our whole health insurance system, that is the NHIF system. The Azimio flag bearer, that is the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, I'd say that once he becomes president, all Kenyans will have universal health care and health insurance. But the thing is, not much of Kenya is made up of people who work in the informal sector, and to have consistently, or to have the money to consistently pay for premiums for the NHIF is usually an issue, and to actually get that information on how to access NHIF and what it does to you. So basically, for those who don't know, you can be able to access healthcare services within any hospital that allows or is willing to take the NHIF card. And the problem has been, we can get sick at any particular time, and health issues have been known to wipe out the whole savings of families.
Very critical.
Very critical. And it's a good gesture for the Kenya National Hospital to waive that amount of medical bills. But I also think it is not right to hold somebody in a hospital just because they are unable to pay for a medical bill. Because the more they stay there, the more that bill increases. You should give them an opportunity.
You stay, it accumulates on a daily basis.
You give them an opportunity to go out there and look for the money. But now, in the case of that, we need to streamline our health insurance system to ensure that Kenyans have universal health care, regardless of your class, regardless of where you come from, or region, or ethnicity.
Of course, we're moving forward. We see now Ford Kenya rubbishes claims of selecting aspirants handed direct tickets. They say there are those particular political parties, that are planning to give direct tickets, and so according to them, they say, should they know of a particular political aspirant, or a particular aspirant for a given political party handed over to a direct ticket, then it would be a no choice.
So now this
will not be given any option.
This brings out again the issue of the primaries and the party primaries. There are parties that give direct nomination tickets to party members because they are well enshrined and closed off parties, because Kenya has a lot of political parties, but mostly people know the ones that are in the mainstream. That is basically the ODM, the Jubilees and whatnot. But now, political parties, there are so many political parties in Kenya. There are those that will give out tickets on a direct basis, as long as you pay that nomination fee. But then the question is, the primaries are full with a lot of chaos. There is a lot of drama that revolves around it. And in this case, IBC has closed the window for members who lose the nominations, and they are trying even to close it further by declaring that you cannot be able to run as an independent once you lose the nomination. So now politicians are jittery right now, and parties are also
because most
jittery.
of them are already panicking as to whether they'll be able not to face the favor or to get the favor of nominations, or they will be nominated out. And should they be nominated out, what will be their fate? Of course, most of them seeing losing their political interest after the nomination because or considering the tough conditions, of course, by the registrar of political parties. You'll not be able to jump over to another political party. You will only be there as an independent. Of course, still it is also questionable, and maybe that particular condition will not also be there with the time. And so this now the very tough time for decision. Of course, the toughest
for political parties,
especially for the political parties, not just for political parties, but even for the individuals. As we narrow down to the individuals themselves, those political individual aspirants for various political parties. And that's why we've seen the majority now jump from one political party to another. Remember, these are some of the stories that we are bringing to you in the counties section. And meanwhile, continue staying with us. Remember, in a short while, we will be getting to the second beat of this particular third beat of this particular show. Remember, today in the third beat of the show, we'll be talking about the subject of corruption. We've seen corruption being talked about over and over again, because we'll be Otichilo, that's the governor for Vihiga County, now saying that Azimio will be, Azimio government will end corruption, will bring corruption to an end. But is it true? It's a question, of course, it's a question for you, viewer, you who is the voter to decide. Of course, will be there to decide the fate as to whether it will be Azimio, whether it will be Kenya Kwanza or Safina, of course, or Muturi.
Muturi has not yet come out to clearly say what he wants.
And so it will be the fate. You as a voter will actually decide the fate. Remember, in the third bit, we'll be talking about the subject of corruption. And you've realized that corruption not just in the political arena. Corruption is right from our family areas, of course, getting to the church levels, getting even to school institutions, job markets, and so the subject of corruption is just broad, and of course is seen, or is that which has been perceived to be affecting the whole country, affecting the entire society, affecting our community at large. And so be ready to participate when we get over, when we cross over to that particular session. Remember, it will be such a bit of participation. The most participatory bit of the show is the third bit of the show. Of course, the subject will be corruption. You can begin to think about it. My name is Evans Odiam.
My name is Maurice Muta.
Continue staying with us. We are taking a short break, but coming later, we'll be getting to the subject of corruption, of course, tackling the very last and the very third and the very last bit of this particular show. Continue staying with us. In a short while, we'll be back with much more. Right, welcome back. Remember, Right, we are talking about the subject. Inajitoa. Right, welcome back. We are talking about the subject of corruption. We are talking about the subject of corruption. Remember, corruption is one big subject that has been seen to be affecting our country, our societies, nation, of course, affecting various sectors. Of course, corruption has not only been in the political arena. We see even companies, when it comes to job employment, job market, I mean, corruption is there.
Even churches itself.
You get to churches, corruption is there. Some church leaders corruptly elected.
And it has become such a situation, as I've said before, that corruption has become enshrined in the moral fiber of the Kenyan people. That it has become something so common that when it happens, we feel no pinch about it. And when something starts as a small thing and it starts on a societal aspect, it gravitates and it becomes something really large, whereby now we are seeing billions and billions.
To some extent, we can say the Kenyans themselves are getting used to corruption.
It has become a way of life, and people have come to accept
issues of bribery there each and every time.
And when you ask Kenyans about their issue with morality, as long as you have money, then everything is fine. And we have come to praise people with wealth to the point that we do not question where they go.
So with the money you can buy everything.
You can buy everything, yes.
Be it power.
And that's the whole point of a capitalistic type of system that we have, whereby accountability has been thrown outside the window as long as everybody benefits, or as long as somebody becomes prosperous. And as you've said, over the years, it started off as something that nearly destroyed our own GDP. There were issues with the Golden Bag, with the Anglo leasing in the Moi's regime and Kibaki's regime that came to overshadow us. And in the case of the Anglo leasing and the Golden Bag issue, nearly a third of our GDP was wiped out. And in that case, we have the perpetrators such as Kamlesh Patni that are actually right now, that went to prison for 5 years, and Patni now is running for political seats and whatnot. Then it gravitated and it slowly changed into mega projects.
Looking at the graph, looking at that gradual growth or gradual change of that particular graph, you realize that at some point it will rise, then at some other point it will float. So the fight against corruption has not been such a steady graph. Sometimes we will see it rise, especially depending on that political leader or at the top seat, of course the president, of course. Talking about the Kenyan government, at some time you will realize that the fight against corruption, looking at it graphically, you will realize that the graph grows steadily. At some times it goes down. Sometimes, for example, when a given leader is there for 2 terms, at the first time you'll realize that he really fights against it. The second term, relaxed again. Remember the audit. Remember the audit, of course, by President Uhuru Kenyatta. This was one. This was one factor. This was one essential element that was being seen to be a rise factor against fight of the corruption.
As you've said, that there are times whereby the government goes about trying to close on all corruption loopholes, and then there are times the government just does not do anything about it. My point on this is that it depends on who is involved. And in the case of the Uhuru Ruto regime, we have seen a lot of scandals that have been put forward. We've seen the Ministry of Health scandal, we've seen scandals with NSSF, we've seen scandals with Kimorere Aror, we've seen scandals involving the Eurobond, and all these things have all been swept under the mat, because after a while it goes to the public sphere, people talk about it, but then in most cases nothing is usually done.
But when you get to times for campaigns, especially electioneering periods, you realize that the issue of corruption is rising again, but in trying to favor the citizens, trying to promise them that will really fight corruption. And this has been noticed even currently during the political campaigns, during the political rallies for various coalitions, for various political parties. Of course, we've seen Azimio launching their campaigns. The fight against corruption is #1 agenda. Looking at the Kenya Kwanza, fight against corruption is an agenda. And now today we've realized that Wilbao Tichilo, the governor of Vihiga County, is also saying that Azimio is there to fight corruption. Should it get there, then corruption shall be fought to the latter. But there's a question to you as a listener, you as a viewer. Of course, you are the voter who actually decide the fate of who ascends to the government. Now take a flashback of the past governments or the past government regimes. Look at it. What is the first? What is the the graph? What is like the graph of corruption like? Have you seen it being fought, or is it just during campaigns that the subjects come? No promises are made to you there as a voter, but nothing done upon it, or nothing is done to eradicate it fully. I want you to look at it and share with us, of course, doing a post-mortem of the past government regimes. Do you see corruption being fought, or is it just a subject that is being said, or a matter that just rises during electioneering periods, campaign periods, just to get lost again
and to get votes? Corruption has been one of the agendas that parties have used and politicians have used in order to get votes. They say, I will fight this and they will do this for you. I'll ensure that public funds are not looted. And
interestingly enough, some of them, once they get there, they begin fighting it, then they stop it again.
And we've noticed this trend, and it has happened for so many years. But then that is why it's so important to have a vibrant what is it called,
leader,
and at the same time to have opposition, a vibrant opposition that will keep the government in check, that will be able to leak out this information concerning what is happening within the inner workings of the government. Like in the case of Raila Amolo Odinga, he has been known to have released and given information concerning so many scandals,
because putting the government on
toes, because they have to realize that these are public funds that are being looted in that case. And one of the most high-profile cases was between Honorable MP for Sirisia constituency, Mr. John Waluke, and his business partner Grace Wakungu. We see that in 2020 they were released after 3 months in jail. They were being asked for close to 1 billion Kenya shillings in terms of fines in order to be released, but the court decided to give a cash bail of 10 and 20 million before the case is listened to again. This is only one of the major first high-profile people that have been arrested and actually jailed for it. Another person who was jailed was Kamlesh Patni, the owner of Lyco Regency, and he was involved in the early 2000s in a lot of corruption dealings. But Kenya has been ranked at 128th out of 180 countries in the corruption perception.
128.
100 out of 180.
So you can imagine where our nation is.
And the list says that the number one on that list is the least corrupt country. So now we are at 128 out of 180.
So we are ranked somewhere as far as corruption is concerned. So we are also getting to that critical position, for corruption.
And you realize the implication of whatever is going on in this country in terms of mega corruption and mega scandals that have been brought out to the media over the years is that these are funds that were meant to go into build resources, to build schools, to build roads, to provide infrastructure, to provide medicine in hospitals, pay doctors, pay public servants.
And of course, we've seen some of the public servants, nurses, they are keeping on strike again and again. Meanwhile, the funds for them are there. They should be, paid in time so that they get to deliver the best of their services. But we see it's not done. And so they strike. Meanwhile, it is the Kenyan citizens who suffer. It said that two bulls fighting, it's the grass that suffers.
And it got to such a very critical point during the COVID-19 pandemic, whereby KEMSA was given PPP kits, it was given masks, but then they decided that no, they will not give them to the people, but rather somebody somewhere in that system decided to give himself their own tender, brought in substandard goods. Some that were given to us for free by Jack Ma were sold to our neighboring country, Tanzania. And it's such issues that
I remember KEMSA is again on the on the scandal again of loss of some medicines, of course, some protectors, we saw some contraceptives there are missing, and so KEMSA is on the rise again.
Then,
but all these are aligned to the corruption.
There is also the case of the COVID millionaires, the people that benefited out of the COVID pandemic while the rest of the country was on lockdown. There were people that were making a killing, getting tenders, putting up companies in one day and getting tenders and getting paid immediately in a case of maybe a week or so. A system that doesn't even go
also wealth like distribution. The other day you had the research about the $1 million. The $1 million, those that have attained to be, having that title $1 million, it means you have several billions, because you can imagine $1 worth a lot of Kenya shillings. So being called $1 million, you worth a lot of money. But we see that particular distribution is not even. It is very uneven, because you realize in Kenya that those few who are very rich, but after there are those who are very poor. It is referred to not distributed in the case that there are those who are very rich, then the majority are just there, very able, but just there distributed evil that way until that particular level. But we realize that just a given section, just a small number, very rich, then there at the middle, realize people are struggling, and that is an even distribution of resources. And it's called, and that's a very strong sign of corruption in a country. Yeah, so it's the wealth gap, and there is a very large wealth gap in the country, whereby a small number of people are owning so much money as compared to the rest of the country, and it cannot be attributed to Kenya only. It is a system that is caused by capitalism as a system of running the economy, because wealth is not equally distributed to the people. But this should not be an excuse for our leaders to get into power and just observe or perpetrate some of these acts that have been happening for over years and years. We've seen the Ministry of Health was also implicated in scandals. It's called the Mafia House for a while. And when it comes to, it has become so crazy that to the point that even when sensitive matters such as health are involved, these people will not care about it. They will not care that these funds that are being looted would have been used to buy medicine somewhere, would have been used to save a life somewhere in the country. Remember, in the third bit and of course the final bit of this particular show, we are talking about the subject of corruption. Remember, in the third bit, we would always talk about one particular subject that is perceived to be affecting the whole country, that affects our society at large, that affects our communities at large. And today we are talking about the subject of corruption at large. And going by the discussion, we've just realized that corruption is not only in the political arena, not just in the political class. We realize that corruption is in the various sectors of our country, and of course it has seen our economy depreciate time in, time out, day in, day out. And so remember, you can as well drop your comments, especially remember the big question today is looking at the past government regimes. Do you see the issue of corruption being fought to the latter? Of course, during every time of election hearing period, the subject of corruption would be talked about. Of course, you'll hear, different coalitions, of course, different political parties saying that should they get to the top government, they would fight corruption to the latter. But doing a reflection, doing a flashback on the past government regimes, do you see the issue of corruption being handled to the latter? Remember, you can share with us through our social media platforms, of course, Facebook.
It's at Pure Africa TV. On Twitter, it's at Pure Africa TV. On Instagram, it's at Pure Africa TV. And don't forget to WhatsApp us at 0796 840560.
Of course, we'll get your comment in time. We'll be shouting it up. Remember, this is the most participatory bit of this particular show. Getting your comment, especially reflecting on this particular subject of study. Today, we are talking about the issue of corruption. And share with us. Remember, your comments will also be shouting them out in time.
I see here Dan Marete is saying that we are used to the talk about corruption. Politicians will come, talk about it, and then do nothing about it. And I see somebody saying, Ishmael here saying that I am also corrupt, and it's okay if he says that it's okay if other politicians are corrupt.
I see. Victor Omolo, all tuned in all the way from Kisumu, saying Kenya is not Kenya without corruption. And so it seems that even the citizens themselves, they are already used to it. Moving forward, I see President Uhuru Kenyatta's regime tried a bit, but there we saw it graduating slowly, and it eventually left. They eventually left fighting corruption. This is a comment from Mercy, of course, tuned in all the way from Kirinyaga County.
I see Koskei here saying that if you're in that position, you would do the same.
And so we see that the subject of corruption in Kenya, even the Kenyan citizens themselves are getting used to it. But meanwhile, there's that section who really fights against corruption. Yani, they are just opposed to it. They are really opposed to it.
If you are given the opportunity to stand there or to be able to be in charge of this country, and you not necessarily this country, rather say you are in a post whereby you are given a position to oversee a very large amount of resources at a particular time, and got an opportunity to be corrupt, will you do it?
I would not do it.
Because
I would not be corrupt, because I know the dangers of the corruption. Of course, trying to imagine the light. Of course, my main aspect or my main concern is the distribution of funds. Those that are really in the high class do not. They never imagine that there are those people at the grassroots are really suffering just because of unequal distribution of funds, just resulting from corruption. And so my concern, I would zero rate it. Would I get that particular chance? But always it's said that those that with ideas have no power, and those that have power have no ideas of eradicating this particular subject. Of course, we've seen Professor Lumumba, Patrick Lumumba, talk about it over and over again.
And you remember there was a time he was the head of the EACC, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. But then he was ousted. He was taken out of the office on a scandal. He was also involved in a scandal where somebody tried to bribe him. But people said that was a means of removing him from office. And they have called over and over again the EACC a toothless bulldog. That it has a big name, it has a big mandate to tackle such issues, but then it has not been given the resources and the power to actually fight such issues. And
of course, remember the other day DP talking about the weaponization of these state-run agencies. Of course, these very core agencies like EACC, KRA, and the rest. And so I think these particular agencies, should they, the time they'll be strong enough to exercise their authorities to the latter, then the subject of corruption could be seen to
notice this about corruption, and I've put out this in a statement before. We devolve corruption to our own counties, and even though the counties were set up to, as you said, as you've insisted on, redistribution of wealth from the central government, redistribution of resources from the central government, and self-autonomous rule within our regions, depending on our cultures and the way that those regions run. We devolve corruption to our counties. And we've seen a number of governors that have been impeached, others that have had so many cases concerning corruption cases. We've seen Mike Sonko being removed from office. That is the former governor for Nairobi. We've seen Zachary Obado having a lot of cases. We've seen Waititu also being removed from the county as the county government of Kiambu. We've seen Anne Waiguru with the issue of the NYS, and again with her county in Kirinyaga. But you see,
because among or many other leaders that we can't count, of course, all of them.
And in all this, we've seen leaders who protect each other. As long as you're in power, you protect whoever is close to you, and to ensure that they are not taken to court and face the charges for such issues. And these economical crimes are having a trickle-down effect. In the same way that economic prosperity will trickle down to the normal Mwananchi, these economic crimes being done higher up in the echelons of power are still being felt by the normal Mwananchi. So it's a really contentious issue, and it's something
very debatable.
Very debatable
as whether it will come to an end one day, or it will just be that way. Years come, year go, elections come, elections go. I see a comment here from Ruth saying, I'm tuned in all the way from Moranga County. I'm wooing Justice Maraga. He's saying just when he hears the subject of corruption and some of the individuals that are really dealt with it accordingly, then Justice Maraga is given a credit. That's Ruth. So guys, thank you very much, of course, for being tuned, of course staying tuned to the breakfast show. Remember, this is the third bit of this particular show, and it's the last, the very last bit of this particular show. And today we are talking about the matter of corruption, and in a short while we will be getting to the end of this particular discussion, to the end of this particular debate. Meanwhile, you can drop your comment. We'll be reading two comments, exactly two comments, before we can finally get, of course, from my comment section and get one. Then you finally get one. Of course, comments are just they are just too much, but because of the time, we'll just get to rush over and maybe call it a breakfast show. I see Collins is just saying it's high time our leaders to pull up their socks and just promising during campaigns.
Arnold Ngei here says that this problem is rooted in the people, and if we start change as on our own, we will be able to end this.
Remember, these are just some of the comments, not all of them. There are several comments, but these are just some of the comments, especially on this particular issue of corruption. But now, even as we come to the end of this particular subject of discussion, as we come to the end of this particular debate, of course, we've seen your comments there. You say thank you. Of course, they are very relevant. But concluding, it's you as the Kenyan citizen to decide the fate of all this, whether it will be there or not. It's you. Remember to jot down your factors for choosing a good leader, not a corrupt leader, and to see you having a corruption free government. Remember, youths are also in leadership. Again, these youths are not scandalous. They have not been in the light of scandals, and so it's upon you as a Kenyan citizen, it's upon you as a Kenyan voter, to decide the fate, or whether to change the entire system of government by electing the youth, and also
or doing the same thing over and over again.
And over again. It's your fate, of course. It's you to decide their fate, and that brings us to the end of this discussion. Or maybe if you have something in conclusion.
In conclusion, I'd say keep the conversation going at our social media handles. Keep the WhatsApp us at any given time. And again, it starts with you. You cannot expect you are the ones that has the right to vote your politician. So, and again,
and not just voting, practice also to stop corruption. The moment you stop it, you expect to see your leaders also
changing their ways.
Stop it. And that marks the end of the Thursday. That marks the end of the Thursday breakfast show. Of course, thank you very much for being with us since we began in the first bit of the show. Of course, right from 7 o'clock in the morning, you stayed with us. Even the second bit of it, we got to the newspapers. There we saw what were coming up in the various sections, and there we have talked about the matter of corruption. In the third bit of the show, of course, you've really participated. We say thank you for being for choosing the breakfast show. Thank you